Good evening, everyone. We'll go ahead and call this regular meeting to order for ESD 1. Time is 5:30 p.m.
Recording in progress.
25. Let the record reflect all commissioners are present except for Commissioner Riker. And with that, we'll go into the pledge and invocation, please. To the flag
of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Dear Heavenly Father, Lord, we thank you for this day. We thank you for the opportunity to gather today to do business upon the county. Lord, we just ask that you guide this meeting and the decisions we made that glorifies you. We're thankful for the food that you prepared for us, and we ask that it nourishes our body. In Jesus' precious and holy name we pray. Amen.
Amen. 1.3 is public comments. Are there any public comments? Hearing none, we'll move to new business. 2.1 is the Joint Emergency Service Chiefs report.
All right, good evening, commissioners, and we'll get started with Chief Snyder on the monthly operations. As soon as it comes up.
Yeah. Same as us as always, I think. So commissioners, good evening, and we'll get started. So pay no attention to the 186 calls there that you see in the left column, and then the bar graph says 186 as well. We actually had 185 calls for service, which you'll see down there in the incident count by station and incident types. Somebody had put a call in and deleted it, and I couldn't figure out how to wipe it away from the total incident count, so I left it after an hour of frustration. So average response time 16 minutes and 9 seconds. As usual, Peg has picked up the lion's share of the call volume at 143 total calls for service. 23 calls originated from Balmoral area, 19 out of Orla. Moving over to the type of incidents, rescue EMS related calls are the bulk of what we do, to include more vehicle accidents. So 106 of those, 25 fire calls, 10 hazardous conditions, 4 service calls, 26 good intent, 14 false alarms. Moving on to the next pie graph there. So just shows a representation of where we are call volume wise. Fires were 14% of the total call volume for this month. And rescue EMS related calls at 57%. And then for the mutual aid or requests for mutual aid, so we had 5 total requests, 2 of them out of Barstow, 2 of them out of Culberson County, and 1 of them from Minton. And that is the end of the report, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Hearing none, we'll move to 2.2 is the presentations regarding emergency services, including the 1, 2, 3, and 4.
All right, for the job postings, since we opened up here, not a lot of changes on the firefighter. We are about to have testing on Friday. We do have 13 positions open. So Chief Snyder's been heading up to try to get us some firefighters in, but as it is nationwide, does seem to be quite a shortage. And we're just as susceptible to that as any other district or fire department is. So still working towards getting those people. We're going to be doing some testing, and hopefully from there we can do some interviews and get a few people on board. We also have the training battalion chief that we're still working on trying to fill. We've got one more interview that Chief Snyder's trying to get us set up for, and then if all works out, maybe we'll have a selection. If not, We are not going to move fast on this. We want to make sure we get the right person for this position. So if we have to, we will go back out. But right now, we're still looking at the interview, the applicants that we currently have. We also have the procurement manager that you approved for a while back. SIC's working on interviews for that. I believe we've got some lined up for tomorrow. And then the fleet facilities technician, we have 2 positions for that. However, we do have one that I believe that Mr. Henson is about to make an offer on, so still looking for that last one to fill those positions. And then the firefighter cadets program, which of course is coming, we'll roll that out on October 1st, and that's for the 12 cadet positions to help us fill Station 4. Any questions on that at this time? Alright. The next one is the fleet production update. And this information is from our last apparatus committee, so Chief Dobek, if you see anything that's just completely off the wall or incorrect, let us know, and if you've got some new updates for us. But the Type 3 and Type 5 engines were pending the pre-construction, but the orders have been placed. The Type 1 rear mount, same thing, pending pre-construction meeting and delivering of the chassis over there to the company as well. And then Unit 302, which is Chief Snyder's new vehicle, construction is in progress on that. The P-19, which is the aircraft firefighting rescue unit, there was a pump test failure in this last model that they were planning on using for us. So they're looking at options. I believe they're looking at perhaps some other chassis that would be able to fill that order. However, I think they are currently being rented. Is that what Yeah, okay. So that got a little bit delayed, but we're still in the progress on that. And then the engine 2 and tower 2 replacements, excuse me. The specs and designs are under committee review right now. The apparatus committee being led by Chief Dobek, they're working on getting those lined up so that we can make a selection and bring it to the boards for approval. And then, of course, engine 4 and the reserve, those are still underway and still shaping up to be around April 2026. Any questions on the fleet report?
The P119, what kind of warranty is it going to have?
If I recall, it has a full year warranty.
One year warranty. Is that on everything or just certain?
All mechanical components.
Is it 1 year?
1 year, because it's a used apparatus.
No, that's for, with the exception of drivetrain, most apparatus is 1 year, and then for drivetrain, they'll have longer.
Sure, I'm just like concerned, if the pump test failed and, they deliver it and, 6 months from something else breaks, just want to make sure we kind of have some kind of.
The pump has been will be completely a brand new pump. When they refer to the pump testing, we required that it have drafting capabilities, and the chassis that they had available to them could not draft. So I told them to select a model that could have drafting capabilities. So that's what they're looking for.
Thank you.
Any other questions? If not, we will move on to member achievements, which, as you can see there, we have our board president, Freddie Contreras, is 6 years. Congratulations. And then same thing with Dr. Yvette. Unfortunately, she's not here, but congratulations to her as well on 6 years. That's a pretty good stint to deal with all the issues and problems that have come along with building an ESD. So thank you for your help.
I think just the last year's been a little bit frustrating.
Well, I almost misadded and put 5 on there, and I was gonna get you a cake that was 5 years, Jim, not for 6.
Same ring.
Chief Snyder, you want to give us some training?
Sure. Quite a bit of training happened for August, so 628 hours of internal training were recorded. Those are the online and in-house things that we do. We recorded 590-ish hours of external training. And we'll show you what we did in that. Scroll down. So Chief Lee, myself, Dr. Riker, the school, police chief, school assistant superintendent, and the safety coordinator for PTB ISD all attended an active, some personnel from ESD too, Chief Hoyer, and Chief Parker, all attended this active threat for schools tabletop exercise, really geared towards the administration of a school district. But we picked up some pretty valuable information, and Vegas really had a good showing. We were easily three times a bigger group than any other school district, and that says a lot when you had a bunch of El Paso there. It was held in El Paso, so I thought it was pretty enlightening. So we had three of our members attend the Oklahoma Swiftwater Rescue Conference and Competition. So they got some training in rescue swimming, bank technician operations, rescuing large animals and people from water, and then rescue boat handling. I have to say that picture that's there on the left with the Zodiac boat is not our boat. That's generic. I copied that from somebody. But anyway, we did quite well. So in the competition, we placed third in the team-based operations. I believe that was out of 17 teams. Captain Woodward there, you see on the left, he placed third in the individual swimming competition. And then boat operations, they placed second, but I think that was out of 2 or 3 teams. And the team that beat them actually borrowed our boat. But what you gonna do? And some more, this is kind of into the wildland TIFMIS world. Through Emergency Medical Task Force, they deploy teams called Rapid Extrication Module Support Teams. These are folks that go into areas that are not easily accessible by vehicle to rescue downed firemen. So we sent people out to that course. This was a pilot course that our members were invited to. So pretty proud moment for Reeves County Emergency Services #1. They think enough of them to be invited out to that. Rail car specialist or hazardous materials transportation specialist. We sent 9 responders to that. So that was a big one. This is a tuition-free course offered by TDM. And I had some pretty good reviews from coming back from that. And the next day we ran a hazardous materials incident on Union Pacific Rail just west of Toya. I'm talking to the guys that went out there that they kind of knew what was going on or had a little more knowledge than they previously had. So good stuff. And then the upcoming training, we've actually already attended that TIFMIS symposium, so I'll report on that next time, as well as the road technician. We continue to try to get folks certified in roads tech, Swiftwater, A&O, roads A&O, that sort of thing. And then happening tomorrow, I think.
Actually, it's been going on this week.
Oh, one of our participants was only gonna go to the 400, that's right. So, yeah, so we got to post 1 to 3, 400.
For the rescue event, you said there were like large animals that they had to rescue. How does that work? Like, what kind of animals?
I believe it's horses and cattle.
And they were in the like a water.
Well, I don't know how they simulated that, I wouldn't know. I mean, they had a picture of an actual horse, and that could have come from some recent flood event.
Do they normally do it like that experiment with like a live animal?
No, I'm saying they had a photo on their website of a live animal, but it could have been from some recent flood event. Essentially, it looked like maybe the horse was leading them out of the water if they had a hold of its neck, but I don't know how
That's all for the room. Do you have any questions?
No questions, we'll move the consent agenda. 3.1 is approve the minutes of August 12, 2025 regular meeting. August 14, 2025 workshop, and August 27, 2025 special meeting.
Make a motion to accept.
There's been a motion by Commissioner Jackson, second by Commissioner Flores, to approve the minutes for the stated meetings. Any further discussions? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any nays? 3.2 is approve and authorize the payment of bills.
Commissioners, all of these bills are routine bills. It does include, this one, there was a citizen's bargaining check for the cancellation fees of the 2 brush trucks that we canceled. We will be holding on to that check until we receive the refund. We are supposed to be receiving a full refund from Cavender Ford. That was what we, that initial deposit for that one, so we'll be getting that money back, but that, check for the cancellation fee will not be released until we receive the check from Cavender Ford. So this will put that out. Other than that, they're all, routine bills. So if you have any questions or if you have a chance to go through any other of the other bills. It does include all the ACH and, which are listed as big drafts, so that's all for the credit cards, payroll, and utilities.
Make a motion to approve.
Second. There's been a motion by Commissioner Jackson, seconded by Commissioner Flores to approve the authorization of payment of bills. Any further discussions? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any nays? No nays. 3.3 is a tax assessor collector's report.
I'm playing mine.
You can appoint.
Start over.
It's reflecting it on that wall.
So we gotta go back to the corner stick.
Okay, so we tried it works on that TV.
I don't think it's okay.
All right, well. Okay, well, we're ending I guess the end of the tax year almost, so. But as of August 31st, our collections, and this is from October 1st until, August 31st, we received $29,273,717.15. Refunds due, were approximately $13,816.14. Total receivables as of 8/31, we're still owed $1,559,218.15. Still $640,000 left for $640,146.42, owed for 2024. Part of that was recalculation. We are at a 97.84 collection rate, which is still really good. And the tax, anything that has not been collected as of October 1st will become delinquent. So any remaining balance from that 640,000 will be considered delinquent after that. So any big question? Any of that?
3.4 is accept momentary grant from Texas Mutual Workers' Compensation Insurance.
Commissioner, this is an annual grant that we received from Texas Mutual for the purchase of safety items. So usually, typically we'll get PPE. In the past, we've gotten a ladder and a couple other things. But this year, we we got $1,500, and I believe we'll be purchasing safety vests and some little bit of eye protection. We got, so that was $1,500 from, this is the company under BFIS and for our workers' comp.
I'd like to accept.
There's been a motion by Commissioner Jackson, second by Commissioner Flores to accept the voluntary grant from Texas Mutual Workers' Compensation Insurance. Any further discussions? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any nays? Any nays, thank you. Item 4 is action items. 4.1 is the Chief's Financial Officer Report. 1 through 4.
Commissioners, as August 31st, all of our revenues actually are higher than what we anticipated for the property tax receivable due to the recalculation. And again, this is only from January 1st until September, and we started receiving property taxes in October for the 2024 tax year. So due to that recalculation, we are at 101.68% for current property taxes. We received more delinquent taxes than anticipated, also penalties, interest, and interest and sinking. Questions, interest earned, we are on target from what we projected from, we did do the initial, because you can see the original budget where we were at 2.2 million. And then that was revised to 800,000 because of those funds being moved to the budget stabilization fund. So we're on target for the general fund, showing interest earned for the general fund is at $105,337.60. We did receive some revenue from deployment that you said on. We are anticipating more, let you know, an update on that, but we did receive $1,364.17. Rental income for the year was 2,800, or for the month was $2,825. Any other questions? Everything else is in line, this workers' compensation. We're slightly over our projections because of the prepayment for the fourth quarter, what we're projecting to cover the next quarter. Typically, we'll see a partial refund after we get the actual bills. So liability insurance, that one's a little bit over as well. Yeah, facility equipment. So, we are pretty close to what our projected amounts are being, or our projected salaries are gonna be a little bit under because due to the station delays. And of course, the utilities, because we're not in the stations yet. So it just shows the other fund revenues and interest earned on the other funds. Any questions on any of those? Balance sheet, so as of end of August, for money held for the general fund was $2,537,823.36 in West Texas National Bank. In tax pool was $22,369,965.46. CIP, again for stations 1, 2, and 3. Did you have any questions on any of those? Any of those items? The investment report, for the month of August, there was $297,668.25 in interest earnings. The majority of the interest, of course, was, for the general fund reserves, currentently all being held in tax pool. So there was $128,118.37 in interest on that account. Interest rates are holding steady. They actually did go up very slightly, but they were anticipated to be reduced to around 3.5% by the end of the year, or by now, so that they're holding steady, so. Any questions on the investment report? Recap of the fund balance. Income statement, that was just the other report that we all had asked for. And it's basically a different way of restating our budget. Any questions?
Motion to accept the chief financial report.
I'll second.
There's been a motion by Commissioner Flores, second by Commissioner Jackson to accept the chief financial officer's report as presented. Any further discussions? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? No nays, thank you. 4.2 is the district purchase orders.
No purchase orders.
4.3 is adopt order adopting the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2026 budget.
Liz, before you get started, hi board, so can y'all hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, I'm at a hotel, so I'm never really sure how great the Wi-Fi is. I do want to note here before Liz gets started on this, that due to some recent changes, the changes from last session that I reviewed with you all, to the Open Meetings Act with regard to agendas, where you're going to be discussing or adopting a budget. We do have to include a draft copy of the budget, which you guys already do anyway, attached to the agenda, as well as this taxpayer impact statement there that has certain specific formulas that have to be put in there. So I just wanted to point those things out to you for May compliance with the updates to the Open Meetings Act on that specific matter. That's all. I'll shut up now.
Okay, do you want to go over the taxpayer impact statement? Do you want to bring that up on the screen first?
I don't really know that you need to go through it. I think it's pretty self-explanatory. It has everything in it that's required to have in it under the statute. Though I will state, as I have stated probably in the past, all of the new tax laws and transparency laws as it relates to taxes, unfortunately, all use different formulas and all use different criteria for how you calculate different things. And that in and of itself makes it quite confusing, in my opinion, to the taxpayer. And I'm speaking as a taxpayer myself, I'm not speaking as your lawyer. But with that said, this taxpayer impact statement does have the required information in it that it needs to have. So, but I don't think you need to go through the specifics of it, Liz, unless the board wants you to.
Ma'am. And that's the president.
So essentially, the budget that you see on the screen is exactly the same as what we discussed discussed previously. Is there any more questions or anything that you would like to go over on the budget?
Is this the joint, or is this everything?
This is everything.
Just ESD, what are the joint ones on it?
It's,
It includes the
it
joint
includes
expenses.
your half of the expenditures.
Yeah, they're included in the total. So this is the total amount, the total, yeah, the total expenditures and the total revenues that ESD one is expected to incur for 2026.
It shows a decrease, correct, from
The
previous year?
the decrease in the fund surplus overall. So like for example, last year, please scroll down to that other page. Go to the general fund. Show the revenues, scroll up just a little bit. So for 2025, the anticipated surplus that we used for M&O was at $10,056,528.69. And the overall surplus for next year is at $8,282,624.62. So the expenditures are going from, anticipated from 19 million this year to 21.8 million next year. So it's an increase of $2,262,539.69. And that does include the transfers out for the debt service. So if you look at the debt service funds, you'll see the transfers in for that, the revenues on those two items. So that amount was actually transferred out of the general fund into the debt service fund, so that does include the debt service. So it's increasing, the expenditures increased by 11.57%. And revenues at 1.65%. Just to emphasize for anybody that's on the call, that the surplus M&O is used for capital expenditures. And if there's any other surplus, it's transferred to the other stabilization.
On the budget, joint budget for ESD, with ESD two, what were the bigger ticket items that we discussed?
The bigger ticket items was the joint salaries.
Across the board, the increases are driven mostly by salaries.
Approximately 75% of the budget is salaries and benefits. If you scroll through, you see the debt service and that. You go to the page right there. I know.
Of the items that we discussed with ESD two, I know there was some decisions, I guess, that were made that were joint, I just don't recall.
Well, I think
Those items.
ESD one, settled on the maintaining the 2-to-1 match for TCDRS and ESD two decided on the 2.5-to-1 for their district.
They haven't officially voted on that, but that's what
They budgeted,
that's what they budgeted.
or, their budget hearing, or they're voting on their budget next week. But I believe that was. There's only difference between ESD one and ESD two. So the shared expenses were the joint employees, utilities, office supplies, facility supplies.
So how does it affect with the ESD two joint employees?
Can I speak to that?
Yeah.
So like, some of our joint employees are listed under ESD one and some of them are listed under ESD two. The ones that are listed in ESD two, they'll get that match. And then the ones that are listed under ESD one will stay the same whatever y'all move on. Just because they're two different payrolls, so we can't move certain people up and leave the rest at the lower, like the 200 and the 250. So they'll just still stay the same as everybody.
So how is that split between like the people who are on ESD one and ESD two?
50-50.
But how's it designated? Like how do you fall, like how do you know if you fall under?
So at the beginning, when we first started, like when I first started, everybody that was a joint employee would go under ESD one because we had that interlocal agreement that ESD one would pay all the joint employees and then get reimbursed by ESD two. Then as we moved forward, now we have shared employees, so like we have two facility, one is ESD one and one is ESD two. And I just, as they come in and they're hired, I just see like how many do we have in ESD one, how many is in ESD two, and then that's how they're split. But at the beginning of the year, since they're gonna change the interlocal agreement again, everybody will be under ESD one and then everybody will be split. So regardless of where they're at, it will be a 50-50 expense.
Yeah, the interlocal agreement was already changed.
But it starts January 1.
Yeah, well, I think the decision was made a couple of years ago, instead of trying to do joint, they were trying to split it between the districts. But what has happened is that, like one employee would be step 7, one step 2 employee, we've had an employee turnover, so hasn't evened out. So I think the hope was like, they have an even number of employees on each side, but the costs have not evened out for each.
So going back to the TCDRS, like I'll just use myself as an example, I'm an ESD one employee. So whatever y'all decide to make that match, that's where I stay regardless, and ESD two will still pay my match, half, 50%. And then if somebody else in the office is an ESD two employee, they do get that match because that's what ESD two will.
So how many employees are we talking about?
About 8 employees.
That are on
ESD one.
That are shared?
Oh, that are shared or just on ESD one? That are gonna be affected by this? 8.
Does that include the open positions that haven't been filled?
How many current employees under ESD two would be considered joint under the 26?
But that's not what he's asking, he's asking about the employees that are ESD one that will remain with that match.
Right.
That's what he's asking. So there'll be 9 employees with the new position that's being added.
Roughly half.
There's 26 employees that are, that should be truly considered joint.
Yeah,
How many of
only
the-
9 of those right now are listed under ESD one.
How many of those are listed under ESD two for those employees?
So we'll get you on that.
Okay, for voting on the TCDRS tax rate, we actually heard the TCDRS rate, that's actually a separate vote. If you guys, we have it on the agenda for next month, for October. But it has to be, the TCDRS rate has to be adopted by December, so we have a little bit of time to decide that, but it was,
So even if you vote for what you've got currently, you know, that's fine, and if you change your mind later, you can still make that amendment.
Did you have any questions, Mr. Jackson?
it just, for everybody to see, on the budget, we're proposing the 2.5 match going forward, so they weren't in the retroactive. It's gonna start effective January 1st.
But that also says that they have to do it over.
These are pictures.
Your percentage for that one. You're the 99% back.
Mr. Foster, do you have any questions?
No, sir.
So,
So for ESD one, just current employees who we have, right now, it's 12 employees with the one that we're hiring for right now, so it's 13 employees. And then the employees for ESD two will be 9 with the other 2 logistics that we're hiring right now.
Did you include the?
Yes, dispatch and
Okay. So, the difference between the
Yes.
two districts will affect, the 9?
yes,
It affects that?
no, it'll affect 12.
Well,
Yes. 12 with a new employee that we're gonna hire for purchasing.
For ESD one, right?
Yes,
But it also includes all of the regular ESD one staff, right? Because all of ESD two will be different than
Yeah.
plus the joint.
right, correct.
is there any other questions by any other commissioners?
Make a motion to adopt the fiscal year budget ending December 31st, 2026.
That's it.
There's been a motion by Commissioner Flores, second by Commissioner Jackson to adopt the order adopting the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2026 budget. Any further discussions? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Commissioner Foster, was your answer yes?
Yes.
Commissioner Jackson, was your answer yes?
That's right. Yes, so, yeah, whatever, yes. I think it's just, I don't know.
Commissioner Flores, was your answer yes?
Yes.
And for myself, it was a yes. 4.4 is public hearing of proposed 2025 tax rate.
Just for reiteration purposes, your notice regarding this public hearing was published and posted in accordance with the law, with the date and the time and the location of this public hearing, and did include the proposed total tax rate of 0.082728, which was comprised of an operation and maintenance rate of I'm sorry, I read the wrong thing. I'm sorry, scratch that. I apologize, I keep reading the wrong line. Total proposed tax rate of 0.090117, comprised of an operation and maintenance rate of 0.082728, and debt service rate of 0.007389. So, Mr. President, is there anyone there to speak with regard to the proposed tax rate?
Nobody wants to speak.
Well, if not, then I recommend you close the public hearing.
Motion to close the public hearing.
There's been a motion by Commissioner Flores, second by Commissioner Jackson to close the public hearing on the proposed 2025 tax rate. Any further discussions? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Nays, thank you. 4.5 is adopt the order setting the rate and levy tax for 2025.
So as previously noted, your proposed order setting tax rate does include the total proposed amount as described earlier during the public hearing portion of the meeting, which is comprised of your O&M rate and your debt service rate. I do want to point out to you that in section 4, we have more of that fun formulaic language, that is required to be included in here under the tax code. That your tax rate will raise more taxes for maintenance and operations than last year's tax rate. And the tax rate will effectively be increased by 12.743% and will increase taxes for maintenance and operations on a $100,000 home by approximately 9.95%. We've also provided to you draft language to use for whoever actually makes the motion. It does include another statement in there. It is a different statement than the one I just read to you that is required to be in the motion language. If you take a look at section 3, if you take a look at section 2, in the order, we actually reference that 3.13 or 3.2% increase, as noted in that motion language. I assume you'll have a copy of that. Correct?
Yes, they do.
Okay, thank you.
So on the motion, we just need to make this language as part of the motion included with,
That is the motion.
okay.
For the tax code.
I'll make that motion.
You have to say it.
This one, I move that the property tax rate be increased by the adoption of the tax rate of 0.09117 per hundred assessed valuation, which is effectively a 3.2% increase in the tax rate.
I second that motion.
There's been a motion by Commissioner Foster, second by Commissioner Jackson, to adopt the order setting the rate of living tax for 2025 as stated by Commissioner Foster on the motion. Is there any further discussions? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any nays? No nays.
So just for clarification, that was 4 ayes, 0 nays, and 1 absence by Commissioner Walker, correct?
Correct. Item five is the attorney's report, including the review of the open meetings act requirement related to the wording of the agenda.
So, you all asked me to bring this back to the next meeting, or at least that was my understanding of what I was asked to do. I asked the staff to give you a copy of, some documentation from another client's litigation that relates specifically to this issue. I did mention it briefly at the last meeting. Unfortunately, even though I highlighted everything and the staff made the copies in color so that the highlights would show up, apparently the highlights did not show up. I don't know why, but it's really weird, but PDF can sometimes be a mystery to me. So without going into too much detail on all of the facts of this particular case, it is another ESD client in Harris County that we represent and have represented for quite a while. They were separating from their service provider. Things got extremely contentious between them and the service provider. And then the service provider decided to sue the district for a myriad of reasons, which they ultimately ended up losing, by the way, and had to went bankrupt. But for this specific purpose, they started making allegations with their filings that the district had violated the Open Meetings Act for a number of reasons, including going into executive session and the wording on the agendas for being able to go into executive session. And they made this, they included as parties the individual commissioners as well as the district as a whole. So, just to kind of make a long story short, the judge in that case, after we filed our response to their claims, which is in this defendant's Rule 91A motion to dismiss, that's what's included there. You also might recognize a name at the end of this motion, the very last page. One Mr. Brian Trachtenberg. He says hi over it, by the way. But the meat of this is that if you take a look at the bottom of the last paragraph of page 3, in this motion, we stated CCMS misinterprets, CCMS is the plaintiff, misinterprets and wrongly applies the Texas Open Meeting Act requirements in order to allege that the district and its commissioners took actions in violation of the Open Meetings Act. Specifically, they allege that commissioners failed to provide adequate notice of closed session topics under a misreading of the Open Meetings Act 551.041, that the commissioners failed to provide adequate notice of closed sessions under Open Meetings Act 551.101, and that the commissioners openly discussed topics not properly noticed under 551.042. So that just kind of sets the table a little bit for kind of the issues in that specific case. If you move on to page 5, bullet point 2, our statement is that CCMS has no legal basis for its claims that the commissioners violated the notice requirements of 551.041. And so then we start getting into the argument of why they don't have a legal basis for their claim. And there's a case here that's listed, Burks versus Yarborough, that's in the last paragraph on that page. Notice of a subject that will be discussed is adequate if it is sufficiently descriptive to alert a reader that a particular subject will be addressed. And then we go on page 6, at the top of the page, once a properly noticed meeting is underway, a governmental body can, in the midst of the meeting, enter into a closed or executive session. Further down in that paragraph, under the Open Meetings Act, governmental bodies must include in their notices those subjects that will be addressed in closed session. And then Cox Enters Inc. versus the Board of Trustees, this case is the very next line, held that the notices published in advance of a meeting must include the subjects that will be considered in closed session. However, they do not need to indicate which topics will be discussed openly and which in closed session, which I think is the issue here. So you go to sub item A, the Open Meetings Act does not require separate notices that distinguish which subjects will be addressed in closed session and open session. And we continue to make arguments about that. The language that's in the squared off boxes is language from the plaintiff's original motion. So that's what that language is, just to let you know. But if you go up to the top of page 7, the Attorney General has considered this issue and determined that in the Open Meetings Act or related case law requires that advance particular subject will be discussed in executive session rather than an open. And that is from a 1990 AG opinion. And then TOMA requires notice of the subject matter to be considered at a meeting of a governmental body. Notice that mentions the subject matter to be discussed is sufficient, even when the timing of said discussion is not clearly indicated. That is another separate AG opinion from 1999, a John Cornyn opinion. And then the next line, the Texas Attorney General goes on to point out that executive sessions are a common practice for governmental bodies and states that no judicial decision or Attorney General opinion states that a governmental body must indicate in the notice of the meeting whether a subject will be discussed in open or closed session. And I want to note the AG ruling, the AG opinion that we have been talking about, that we talked about at the last meeting, continues to operate with that in mind. It does not change what we have listed here in our 2021 pleadings. It absolutely agrees with these statements. So then we go to the next paragraph where we see Weatherford versus the city of San Marcos. The court found that a governmental body's meeting notice that did not indicate which topics will be discussed in open and closed session was sufficient, and that the Open Meetings Act only requires that all subjects, whether addressed in open or closed session, be included in a proper notice. So just be included in the notice of the meeting. I'll move forward. And then on page 9 is where we start our arguments about the commissioners and whether or not they violated the Open Meetings Act, not just the district, but in this case, the commissioners. And this is about steps that the presiding officer must take. I'm sorry, I'm looking under item 3 on page 9. The steps that the presiding officer must take to call the executive session or the closed meeting to order, which, Freddie, I think you do a really good job on how you do that. I wouldn't change your process on how you call those executive sessions to order. So, without going through all of the rest of it, because I am not going to do that to you because it's not really, the rest of it's not really relevant to the situation I was asked to give an opinion on. The other document that I did attach or that was sent over is just a 1-page document, and it's the order granting the defendant's Rule 91A motion to dismiss. And specifically, the second paragraph says that the judge ordered that all of plaintiffs' Texas Open Meetings Act claims against the defendants are dismissed with prejudice. So effectively saying, not effectively, point blank saying that the plaintiff did not have a case at all against the ESD for their Open Meetings Act claims. And by dismissing it with prejudice, that means that the plaintiff can never bring those claims again in any circumstance. So as a lawyer, I feel like this is a pretty clear, even though this is not a court that is over Reeves County, so it's in another part of the state, this is one of those cases that if there were a case filed related to the Open Meetings Act, it would definitely be in the list of cases that would be reviewed by anyone trying to argue against those types of claims. But you can see that this has been litigated numerous times just by the case law I referred to across the state. And the courts concur with the perspective that I've always had on how you notice executive session. So I don't know if you all want me to do any more with this. I do have some other thoughts on some things on your agenda that, maybe you might want to talk about changing or streamlining. But I'm happy to answer any questions about it.
Does anybody have any questions?
Yeah, I don't have any further. I don't have any, thing further. I don't think there's anything additional you need to do it on this. I mean, if you want to make your suggestions, suggestions, I think that's fine. But I don't think you need to continue to do any research or anything.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay.
None by any
Oh,
of the
sorry.
commissioners that are present, however, Commissioner Ryder's the one also that was interested in
Right.
this subject, so I don't know if we might have a different discussion, maybe in the next meeting if she's present. But certainly you can make your recommendations and at the same time we can discuss those issues, if any.
Okay, and just, that's fine, I can discuss it again at that meeting if the board wants me to do that. I will note though that my recommendation on your agenda doesn't have anything to do with executive session, so I don't know if you want me just to mention that now, and then maybe we can talk about it again, or what have you. When she's present. It's up to y'all.
Not yet.
Okay, then I'll keep it a surprise. All right.
Item 6, executive session, which I know none. Item 7 is adjournment.
Second.
There's been a motion by Commissioner Jackson, second by Commissioner Flores to adjourn. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any nays? Nays, time is 6:37. We are now adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Thank y'all. Y'all have a good night.